Ok, muy bien, lección 3. Vamos a repasar frutas y verduras, preferencias, objetos indirectos. New stuff, we're going to look at I verbs, in irregular I verbs. First, let's talk about trivialidades. So we've got a word that exists in both Spanish and English. In one language, it means an invitation. In the other language, it means what you do with food.
Invitation, what you do with food. Comer.
Comer is the verb to eat, okay?
I was thinking come here and comer, but that just sounds alike. That's not.
Well, you just said it. Come. Come is the invitation. Come.
Come.
Come means she.
Okay.
Like if we're looking at this picture, she eats. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, translate this for me. Mi carro es rojo, tu carro es negro. What does that mean in English?
My car is red, your car is black.
Nuestro vecino es muy divertido.
Our neighborhood is very no.
Neighbor. Vecino is neighbor.
Neighbor. Our neighbor is ¿qué significa divertido?
Fun.
Fun. Our neighbor is very fun. Is a lot of fun.
Tu casa es muy bonita.
Your house is very beautiful.
It could mean your house.
Sue.
So Sue could be his, her, or your house. And since we don't have more context, we don't actually know.
True.
Mis amigos están contentos. Sus hijos son muy inteligentes.
My friends are happy and their kids are very intelligent.
Good. Mis hermanos están en Uruguay.
My brothers are in Uruguay.
Su esposo es ingeniero.
Sue, so his or her spouse is ingeniero. ¿Qué significa ingeniero?
Engineer.
Sí. I should know that one. Ingeniero. So their his or her spouse is an engineer, or a husband, I guess, because it's esposo.
Yeah, so it's definitely esposo, right? Which we can probably imagine it would be her husband is an engineer. Sure. However, we are in 2022, so it could be his husband. But
never know. Nuestras casas están sucias. Our houses are dirty. Your motorcycle is incredible.
Okay, good. So in our last class, we started talking about irregular verbs. So we're going to keep going. Now we have what we call a stem changing verb, where it changes on both sides, right? So vestir is a good example of one of these. Vestir means to wear clothes, right? So it's a regular IR verb in the sense that the verb endings are the same. What makes it irregular is if you see this little I in parentheses. And when you look up verbs in a dictionary and you see that it has letters in the parentheses next to it, that's an indication that it's a stem changing verb. So vestir, this I in parentheses means that the vowel right before the ending in the second to last syllable is going to change in this situation from an E to an I, right? So when you conjugate it, you say, yo visto un traje nuevo.
Visto.
So here's the full verb, right? Repeat after me. Yo visto.
Yo visto.
Tu vistes.
Tu vistes.
El viste.
El viste.
Ella viste.
Ella viste.
Usted viste.
Usted viste.
Nosotros vestimos.
Nosotros vestimos.
Ellos visten.
Ellos visten.
Ellas visten.
Ellas visten.
Ustedes visten.
Ustedes visten.
Muy bien, Mateo. Vestir, right? Some people call these boot verbs because you can draw a little boot around the verb conjugation where it changes, right? If you notice here in the nosotros form, the E does not change to I. It's vestimos, right? And that happens in the vosotros as well. Since we don't really practice vosotros, don't worry about it too much. But yeah, sometimes this.
Anytime it has that I in parentheses after a verb, it would be a boot verb.
Yep.
Okay.
¿Qué viste? Ella.
Oh yeah. Ella. Oh, I was looking for ella viste. ¿Cómo se dice winter hat?
We're looking for the scarf.
Oh, the scarf. That was a new one. ¿Cómo se dice scarf?
Bufanda. Una bufanda.
Ella viste una bufanda.
¿Qué viste? Él.
Él viste un traje.
¿Qué viste ella?
Ella viste las sandalias.
Y unas sandalias.
Unas
¿Y qué viste ella? La otra.
Ella viste these are unas zapatillas.
Zapatillas.
Zapatillas, that's a new one too. Zapatillas.
¿Qué viste el gato?
El gato viste corbata? No.
Corbata would be a tie. These are gloves.
Yeah, not. ¿Cómo se dice gloves?
Unos guantes.
Guantes. Unos guantes. Ella viste un vestido, or chaqueta,
Abrigo.
abrigo, okay. Abrigo.
¿Qué viste Obama?
Obama viste una gorra.
¿Qué viste él?
Él viste un cinturón.
¿Qué viste?
Ella viste un blusa.
Una.
Una blusa.
¿Y ella?
Viste un vestido.
¿Qué viste?
Viste un ropa interior.
So that you just say, viste ropa interior.
Interior.
Nothing before it. ¿Qué viste?
Viste calcetines. Unos calcetines.
¿Qué viste él?
Él viste un camisa. Una camisa.
¿Y él?
Viste una corbata.
¿Y él?
Viste un pollo.
Pollo. Pollo is a chicken.
Not chicken, yeah, not chicken.
¿Y él?
Viste unos pantalones.
¿Qué viste él?
Viste unos zapatos. Unos zapatos. Viste una chaqueta.
Muy bien. So more verbs that work this way are like competir, pedir, despedir, impedir, servir, y vestir.
Sorry, I'm slower when I gotta write notes. Despedir. Already got where. So it'd be sirvo. First, I serve.
Muy bien. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. So now remember what I said. It's the second to last syllable that changes, right? Because here in number 3, you've got despedir. You have an A here and an A here. It's this one that changes, not this one. So it'd be despido, right? Not dispedo.
Compido.
Compito.
Compito. Okay.
Pedir is a good one to talk about. So it means to either to ask for something or to order something. It can be used in both situations, right? And it would include the word for. So you don't add a preposition or anything. That would, like, we just have, for us, it's a phrasal verb, and in Spanish, it's all included there.
Okay.
Muy bien. Vamos con competir, Mateo.
Competir. Yo compito. Tú compites. Ella compite. Nosotros competimos. Ellos, ellas compiten. Compiten? Yeah, compiten. Yo pido. Tú pides. Tú pides. Él pide. Ella pide. Usted pide. Nosotros pedimos. Ellos piden. Ellas piden. Ustedes piden.
Muy bien. Despedir.
Yo despido. Tú despides. Él despide. Ella despide. Usted despide. Nosotros despedimos. Ellos despiden. Ellas despiden. Ustedes despiden.
No idea why these charts are showing up the way they are here. This is weird. Impedir.
Impedir, which is to
impede, to prevent something or to stop something.
stop. Impede. Impido. Tú impides. Él impide. Ella impide. Usted impide. Nosotros impedimos. Ellos impiden. Ellas impiden. Ustedes impiden.
Servir.
Yo sirvo. Tú sirves. Él sirve. Ella sirve. Ustedes sirven. Nosotros servimos. Ellos sirven. Ellas sirven. Ustedes sirven.
Muy bien. Vestir.
Vestir is to wear. Yo visto. Tú vistes. Él viste. Ella viste. Usted viste. Nosotros vestimos. Ellos visten. Ellas visten. Ustedes visten.
Muy bien. Here we've got a couple of more that are just a tiny bit irregular because you also have to put this accent mark on it. And it's kind of indicated in the conjugation itself, right? Or in the infinitive, because all these have the accent on that I. So we've got freír, reír, and sonreír. Okay. For example, frío huevos. So remember, you're chopping off this IR ending. In this situation, we're changing the E to an I with an accent mark on it. And then you're adding back the regular endings. Vamos con freír.
Yo frío, tú fríes, él fríe, usted fríe, ella fríe. Nosotros freímos. Ellos fríen, ellas fríen, ustedes fríen. Yo río, tú ríes, él ríe, ella ríe, usted ríe. Nosotros reímos, ellos ríen, ellas ríen, ustedes ríen.
Sonreír, muy bien.
Sonreír. Yo sonrío, tú sonríes, él sonríe, ella sonríe, usted sonríe, nosotros sonreímos, ellos sonríen, ellas sonríen, usted sonríe.
1.
Mi hija, ríen con mis bromas.
It sounds like you're trying to put it in the third person plural.
Oh, no.
It's singular.
Ríe.
Ríe.
Mi hija ríe con mis bromas. Mis colegas visten pantalones cortos. Nosotros despedimos nosotros viaje el Perú. Ustedes piden la comida. Yo repito las instrucciones. Armando fríe huevos para ti. Los alumnos repiten la lección. Los alumnos repiten. Yep. El policía impide el robo del banco. Mi enamorada viste minifaldas. Mis abuelos sonríen a menudo.
Muy bien, Mateo. ¿Qué prefieres? ¿Las camionetas, los carros deportivos o los sedán?
Los carros deportivos.
¿Qué comida prefieres? ¿La comida italiana, china o mexicana?
Prefiero comida mexicana.
¿Qué prefieres? ¿Las montañas, la playa o la ciudad?
Prefiero las montañas.
¿Prefieres películas románticas, dramáticas, de acción, de comedia o de horror?
Prefiero películas de comedia.
De comedia.
Comedia.
De comedia. Cuando estás de fiesta, ¿prefieres tomar agua, cerveza, vino, ron, un trago, un jugo, un refresco?
Prefiero tomar cerveza de fiesta.
¿Prefieres la pintura surrealista o realista?
Prefiero la pintura surrealista.
Muy bien. All right, now for some fun stuff. We're going to start getting into a little grammar, okay? Not a little, a lot of grammar. This is actually kind of painful, so just we'll get through this together. Don't worry.
Okay.
All right. So in a super simple sentence, all you really need is a subject and a verb, right? Like I write. However, we've just given absolutely no detail. It's grammatically correct. However, it's really missing a lot of information, right? So you might ask somebody, well, what are you writing? Okay. I write a letter. Okay. So when you ask that question with the word what, you get what's called the direct object. The direct object directly receives the action of the verb, right? Remember, a verb is an action, an activity or an action. The subject is the person that does the action. The direct object directly receives the action. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah. Hey, 1 second. My computer screen just went dark. I can still hear you. You can still hear me, but it's black. Let me unplug real quick.
Huh. Any luck? Hello, Mateo, Mateo, Mateo. You back?
All right.
You back?
Yeah, sorry, I had to do a hard restart. I don't know what happened.
Oh, that's okay.
Really
Computers, technology.
blanked out.
That's the way it goes sometimes.
Yep.
All right, let's see here. So let's get back to the lesson. All right, so we were talking about the direct object. So does that make sense to you that here, when you ask the question, what, along with the verb, what are you writing? You get the direct object, a letter.
Mm-hmm.
So that directly consumes the action, the activity. Now, in more complex sentences, you can also include what we call an indirect object, which would answer the question, to whom are you performing that activity, right? So in this situation, I write a letter to you. Who are you writing the letter to? To you. So that's what's called the indirect object.
Okay.
So there's a few things that we have to go over here. Like almost everything, the order is reversed. in English when we're using what we call an indirect object pronoun, right? So, tú me escribes una carta. We would say that backwards. You write me a letter. We typically put that indirect object pronoun after the verb. In Spanish, it would normally come before the verb. Yo te escribo una carta. I write you a letter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Indirect objects are not always used. They're typically used to show some type of an exchange of information or objects, right? Possession, when you're physically handing something to somebody. Because of that, there's really only a few verbs that really require or would be used in conjunction. You can't just use an indirect object with everything, right? So dar, we were talking about the verb dar in our last class. Remember, that's the irregular one. Yo doy.
Mm-hmm.
So can you read that example to me?
Yo te doy dinero.
Right. You practically have to use an indirect object with that verb, right? Like it would be very odd to say, I give, right? I give money. I feel like I'm really missing something there. Who are you giving the money to? Why do I care? Right? Another one like that is escribir. Can you read this example?
Tú me escribes correo electrónico.
Right? So you write me email. Traer means to bring. Can you read this?
Camarero, usted me puede traer otra botella de vino.
Muy bien. Number 4, comprar.
Mis padres me compran buenos regalos.
Hablar.
Yo te hablo en español en la clase.
Mandar.
Mis alumnos me mandan correo electrónico.
Good. So as we ease into these more complex sentences with direct and indirect objects, it's very helpful to first by starting to try and understand what these sentences are. So there's also a couple of key components that you want to make sure that you're understanding, right? First and foremost is the verb, right? So let's look at number 1. Can you identify the verb being used?
Yeah, dar or doy, to
Good.
give.
Now, what's the subject? Because a lot of times people start confusing who does the action with who is receiving the action, right?
Yeah, the subject will be yo.
Good. So in this situation, remember the subject does the action, so it's yo, right? Now, who is the indirect object?
Te.
Good.
You.
All right. Try number 2. Verb.
The verb for number 2 is escribes.
Subject.
Subject is tú.
Indirect object.
Me.
Right. And so the reason why I do this is because it's very common initially, if you're not really paying attention, right? And if you just focus on the verb, oh, we've got escribir, and then we've got tú, and then we've got me, right? This is very specifically saying you write me, right? But sometimes people, when they first get into this, start thinking of it backwards. I write you, right? So you can see how important it is to make sure that you have a really solid understanding of what's happening in these sentences. Good. Número 3. ¿Cuál es el verbo?
It's a traer. No, it's puede. Puede.
You're right on both. There's 2 verbs. there are 2 verbs, right? It's poder, traer. But I would say, this one's a little tricky, right? Because there's 2 verbs. Poder is the verb being conjugated. However, traer is the primary verb, right? Because bring me. Can you bring me, right?
Okay. Puede is can you?
Yeah. In this
Okay.
situation,
Me
because it
puede.
corresponds with usted.
Ah,
However, bringing is the real activity in the
Yep.
sentence, right? So traer is kind of the primary verb being used. But you're
okay,
right.
so that's the
being-
verb. Subject would be usted,
Good.
and indirect would be me. Me.
Good. All right. Number 4. Mis padres me compran buenos regalos.
Compran.
That's the
Uh,
verb. Mhm.
the subject would be mis padres,
Muy bien.
and the indirect would be me.
Good.
B. Number 5, it would be hablo for the verb, yo for the subject, and te or you for the indirect.
Good.
For number 6, verb is mandan. And the subject would be mis alumnos, and indirect would be me or me.
Okay, good. So we have what's called an indirect object pronoun, which could be something like in English, we would say me, to me, or for me, right? Spanish would typically consume all of those options with just the singular word me, right? Tú me das dinero. Tú me hablas. Tú me escribes una carta. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Te can either mean you, to you, or for you. So try to read through these examples.
Yo te doy dinero. Yo te hablo. Palabras. Yo te escribo una carta.
Yeah, here I put palabras in parentheses. You wouldn't really say it. That would be the direct object. Sometimes you don't actually say the direct object though.
So what do you mean by direct object?
So what are you talking? You're talking words, palabras, right?
Oh,
Or
okay.
the language or whatever, right?
I
In
got
English, of course, we would, and in Spanish too, you wouldn't really say that, right? You just say, I talk to you, right?
Yep.
But to you is technically the indirect object. It's not direct. You are not the person that is being talked. You're the person being talked to. So kind of an odd one. Okay, so just tell me what these mean, Mateo. Number 1, yo te doy la tarea de español.
Doy is to give. I give you Spanish homework.
Good. Tú me escribes en español.
You write to me in Spanish.
Él te trae la comida pronto.
Try is bring.
To bring. Mm-hmm.
To bring. He brings the food to you fast.
Soon. Pronto means soon.
Soon. Pronto, soon.
Nosotros te compramos los víveres todos los días.
We buy you los víveres. ¿Qué significa los víveres?
Groceries.
Sí. We buy you groceries every day.
Give me 1 second, Mateo.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, I'm going right now.
Okay.
3, 4.
Okay, just making sure. All right, try number 5, Mateo.
Number 5. They speak to me demasiado. ¿Qué significa demasiado?
Demasiado rápido. Too fast.
Oh, demasiado rápido. Too fast. Okay, they speak to me too fast.
Cuando ustedes me mandan los productos.
When will they
Careful,
make me
it's
the
not-
products?
Who's the subject?
Ustedes.
Ustedes does not mean they.
Ustedes.
Ustedes means y'all. You plural. You all. Not
Oh, you, okay. You all.
conjugated like they, but it does not mean they.
Okay.
So you're in this situation, you're talking to a group of people. Hey,
Yep.
when will you send me the products?
So it's, okay. So yeah, in this form, they would make sense. So when will you all send me the products? Okay, that makes sense. Ustedes. Okay.
All right. Siete. But so what does the full sentence mean for seis?
For seis, when will you all send me the product?
Good. All right. Siete.
Te ayudo con la tarea esta noche. I feel like it's missing a subject, but I guess the verb would help with that.
So that's why you always start with the verb, because in Spanish,
Yep.
the subject is included in the verb.
Because it's okay. So
what does ayudo mean?
I will help you with homework tonight.
Good. There you go.
Hmm.
Yeah. Spanish doesn't always verbally name the subject independently, because if you think about it, the verbs change in Spanish depending on the subject, whereas we don't change our verb. So we have to say yo, I. Spanish ayudo is 100% the same thing as saying yo ayudo. So that's another reason why I like on that activity we were doing before, where we always start by identifying the verb and then the subject. So even for a sentence like this where the subject isn't named, you don't get confused, because that verb ayudo can mean nothing other than I help.
Yep. So number 8, me cocinas el bistec esta noche. You help me cook the steak tonight. Will you help me cook the steak tonight?
All right. So what's the verb?
Cocinar.
Sorry. I was looking at number 7. You're right.
So it's you.
You got it. You were right. I was
Okay.
looking at number 7. So okay, good. Number 9.
Cuando te paga tu patrón, paga. Paga is the verb. ¿Qué significa paga?
Pagar is to pay.
Oh, so when will he pay me? No, when will he pay you for your service? Patron? No.
So who's the subject here?
He, or
who is he?
No, it's not patron, right?
It absolutely is patron.
It is.
So what does patron mean?
Isn't it a shopper?
Boss.
Oh, okay. Patron is the boss. So patron is pagar, to pay is the verb. Patron is the subject. Indirect is you.
There you go.
So when will your boss pay you?
Good. There you go. Yeah.
Really? Cuando te paga tu patrón?
And again, that's why while you're first getting comfortable with these, right? Identify verb, subject, indirect object. Because in Spanish, the subject can come on either side of the verb too.
Okay. Tu patrón.
I could have said cuando tu patrón te paga or cuando te paga tu patrón. In Spanish, you can say it either way, right?
Okay, that threw me off a little bit.
Yep, that's okay. You're doing great. So this is this is where we've really taken it to a very complex form with the language.
Okay. Los colegas me informan que no hay trabajo el viernes. So informan, the verb, los, is it colegas or colegas?
Colegas, hard G.
Colegas, but then high school is colegio or colegio.
Colegio.
That one
Because
always confuses me.
yeah, so we did this in the first level. It's the combination. Let me see here. Let's go over to the
Okay.
whiteboard. So this happens with the C as well as the G, okay?
Okay.
So if we have on one side of it in A or in E, this is the soft sound.
That's the hey sound, colegio.
And if we have on the other side of it an A, O, or U, it produces what we call then the hard sound. Right? For example, with the letter C, cerveza, beer, ciencia, science, but it can produce the hard sound like carro, car, Colorado, or Cuba. Same thing with G. So like colegio, that's colegio, right?
Yeah.
You have, whereas on this one,
Ah,
colegas, hard sound.
okay, that helps. Those two I go back and forth with, and they because that easy reading book is all about the colegio.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
it can produce both sounds, but there is a hard rule in place there, depending on the vowel. That the combination with E and I produces the soft sound. A, O, U produces the hard sound.
Okay, so los colegas.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, that helps. So this is saying, my coworkers inform me that there's no work on Friday.
Good.
Friday, multiple Fridays, or is that just el
viernes, this Friday,
this Friday? El
because
viernes.
it's singular, yeah.
Okay.
If it were los viernes, it would be every Friday is a day off, but nope, we have to work most Fridays.
Just this Friday. Okay. Te deseamos un buen viaje. So deseamos, want is the verb. I'm assuming we, because it's deseamos is the subject, and you are the indirect. So we want you to have a good vacation.
Essentially, yeah. Good trip.
Okay. A good trip.
Another way you could say that is we wish you a good trip.
Ah, okay. We wish you a good trip. Ellos me imprimen los informes cada mañana. So imprimen is the verb. Ellos is the subject, and me or I am the indirect. So they print me the information every morning.
Yeah, informes means a report.
Ah, informes, report.
Yeah,
They print me the report every morning.
good. Okay, good. Whew. It's a lot of work.
That's crazy. Yep. All right.
Okay. Tell me what these are.
El plátano is a banana. La manzana is an apple. La naranja is an orange. La fresa is a strawberry. La piña is a pineapple. El coco is a coconut. Las uvas is grapes. La pera is a pear.
Very good.
La zanahoria is a carrot. La lechuga is lettuce. El tomate is a tomato. La papa is a potato. El ajo is garlic.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now this next one, this is kind of a regional thing. The
yeah.
first two words are correct. El camote or la batata. In my experience, people say camote most, but it's a regional
Camote?
thing. I think in certain parts of South America, they might call it batata, or maybe in Spain, I can't remember. La papa dulce is just kind of a Spanglish thing that's starting to happen just from people that live here in the United States that are directly translating it because we call it a sweet potato. But it's technically not the right term. I only put that here just because you will hear that term here in the United States.
Okay, so el camote, more than likely for me.
Camote. Mhm.
Oh, el camote.
La calabaza.
A calabasa is a pumpkin. La espinaca, hard C or soft C? That'd be
Yeah, so it's an a,
hard.
hard, ca. Mhm.
Yep. So la espinaca.
Muy bien. By the way, calabaza, here it's a pumpkin. It's really a squash. So it refers to anything from the squash family.
Even a pumpkin?
So a pumpkin is a kind of squash. You've got butternut squash, you've got spaghetti squash, all those different types of things they would call calabaza.
Okay. La calabaza. La alcachofa.
Muy bien.
Alcachofa. KS. That's what is that?
An artichoke?
Oh, looked like a hop plant for a second.
Oh,
That's the beer in me.
Yeah.
Artichoke, la alcachofa, artichoke. La lima, el limon. I've heard el limon.
yeah. So again, I put La Lima there because that's actually the right name for it, but it's really only, I think they only use that in Spain. In Latin America,